obsessed with David Lynch since my interest was first piqued when I was a young kid at the library. I stumbled on a DVD of his first original 6 short films. Something tells me that I must have been confusing him for David Firth, who is best known for creating the horrifying Salad Fingers web series that I'm sure triggered all our nightmares as kids. But either way, I picked it up and I was both slightly disturbed and very intrigued by the art on the cover. This was my first introduction to David Lynch and his art, and I think that feeling still resonates through a lot of his work for me. Slightly disturbing, yet truly fascinating. Since then, I've been intrigued with Lynch as a person, as an artist, and as a filmmaker. His starkly unique style, sense of humor, and extreme talent for visual storytelling and sound design has inspired me and kept me on my toes as I think about how art and film can blend so well together to create a truly effective experience. With that being said, as I watched Twin Peaks: The Return this past summer, I was very happy to recognize a lot of David Lynch's signature motifs. Looking back now on The Return after viewing and sort of studying a lot of Lynch's other work, I've realized that Twin Peaks: The Return can be seen as a perfect embodiment of the David Lynch aesthetic. There are a lot of references or homages to his other films, as well as ongoing motifs throughout most of his work, and I'd like to talk about some of those today. Before we jump in, these are just things that I've noticed. Some of you may not have picked up on these things, or you may have picked up on different things that I may be missing. So this video is going to be just what personally jumped out to me. If you notice something that I missed that you think is really cool, just put it down in the comments and we can talk about it there. Also, there are probably going to be spoilers, so if you haven't watched The Return, or you don't want to know things about his other work that you may not have watched yet, just be cautious while watching this. You can always pause and come back after you've watched something that you haven't seen, but it's completely up to you. Just know that there are going to be spoilers, because I don't want to be held accountable for things being spoiled for you. Sorry. One reoccurring animation style from this season was the stop-motion glitchy movement type of effect. We see this when Cooper interacts with Nato and also when we see the convenience store. I first noticed this as an homage to Lynch's first ever films like The Alphabet and 6 Men Getting Sick. This isn't the only animation-based reference to his work though. I get the feeling that the seemingly cheesy animation used throughout The Return, especially in the spoilers, spoiler warning. But yeah, we see this type of animation in the scene where Freddy literally explodes Bob by punching him in the face while he's floating around in a golden orb. Wasn't that insane? Oh my gosh. That animation, I think, is a reference to the same kind of weird, off-putting, like lo-fi animation that he used in Inland Empire, his other film. Lynch also seems to possibly homage his peer Stanley Kubrick with the extremely shocking and fascinating Episode 8. That bomb visual was definitely giving me some 2001 Space Odyssey vibes, and I liked it. Another perfect example of Lynch's ability to articulate story exceptionally well through visuals and sound design alone. That seems to be his trademark skill set. All right, on to another one. This is gonna be another spoiler. So again, if you haven't watched Twin Peaks: The Return, please don't watch. So this one is quick, but I found it pretty interesting and I wanted to put it in the video. So in episode 6 of The Return, after Richard Horne runs over the kid with the truck, R.I.P. We see some pretty weird, overplayed, and what some might call objectively bad acting from the extras playing the townspeople witnessing the accident. This was discussed a lot when the episode first aired, and a lot of people likened it to just bad acting. But personally, it reminded me of the first half of Mulholland Drive, when Irene and Betty are walking to the taxi, and there's just this weird campiness and like two-dimensional emptiness to their delivery that I and other people think is supposed to represent like Betty's innocence and ignorance of what she's getting herself into. But yeah, that's up for interpretation. Typically throughout a lot of Lynch's more signature works, the characters speak with this rhythm and color that's kind of specific to his work. That's especially noticeable in the original Twin Peaks, and its knack for kind of parodying and commenting on the soap operas that were popular around the same time. So yeah, that was just a small thing I noticed, but figured I'd mention it anyways. Where's my water at? Okay. Next. Mysterious powers. David Lynch is very obsessed with ideas of mysterious powers, unseen forces that control and manipulate from behind the curtain. Much like The Wizard of Oz, which is a film that Lynch is notably in love with, so much as to reference it throughout films like Mulholland Drive and Wild at Heart. Other great examples of this are the man pulling the levers in Eraserhead, Mr. Roke in Mulholland Drive, the Mystery Man in Lost Highway, and obviously the many weird supernatural occult-like beings in Twin Peaks, like the Man from Another Place, the Giant, the Arm, and pretty much anything else that is related to the Black Lodge. In Twin Peaks: The Return, we explore a lot more of the Black Lodge and the beings kind of at work behind the scenes in the otherworldly realms of Twin Peaks. And that's something that I think David Lynch has always really wanted to do since the original Twin Peaks, since ABC kind of pushed them to make it more like accessible and solve the whole murder thing. But David Lynch was like, I want to meditate and just drink coffee and put weird stuff on TV. I could do a better Gordon Cole impersonation than that. I just want to drink my coffee. Anyways. Also, if you haven't noticed, David Lynch is really intrigued by another mysterious power that David Lynch is always kind of referring to is electricity. There's an interview with David Lynch on Letterman from the 90s where Lynch tells Letterman that his brother is an electrician for all the government buildings in Washington. So part of me thinks maybe that has something to do with why he has this weird obsession with electricity. But if you haven't noticed it, it's featured in a lot of his movies visually and through sound effects. And as an example, you can see this in every intro of Twin Peaks. In the original series, the Lynch Frost production logo that plays at the end of the episode, there's like those and then in Twin Peaks: The Return, on the Rancho Rosa Productions, which is the company that Mark Frost and David Lynch kind of came up with to produce the new Twin Peaks, that also has like a light bulb and flickering and like electricity sounds. So that's just another thing I've noticed. Yeah. All right, last kind of motif that I'm gonna get to here in this video. Americana. From the Philadelphia-inspired industrial nightmare of Eraserhead to the squeaky clean suburban neighborhood suggested in Blue Velvet's intro. Wow, that was really hard to read. To the Hollywood dream tragedy of Mulholland Drive. Lynch has been glaring deep into the American psyche for years, and Twin Peaks is no exception. The gorgeous mountain landscapes, the diner with its coffee and cherry pie, the blue-collar everyman type characters and environments all scream American nostalgia. I believe that this use of classic American elements as a landscape for his nightmarish mysteries is a way of both admiring the country and also taking a deep look at its dark, seedy underbelly, like in the opening scene of Blue Velvet. The Return is very much steeped in Americana, showcasing South Dakota, Las Vegas, Philadelphia, and Washington. I thought Las Vegas was kind of a notable location because Lynch might be using the addictiveness and loss of control of gambling, adding to the list of things that ruin good people like sex, drugs, and violence, as Twin Peaks has suggested or demonstrated throughout its runtime. So now I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how Twin Peaks: The Return should be viewed. And I think that like a lot of David Lynch's work is just less as like a film or a TV show and more so just as like a work of art in general. And that sounds kind of pretentious, when you first say it. But I guess what I'm getting at here is I think that with most of his films, I believe that Lynch operates with the mental tool set that he acquired while working as a painter. So he makes dark, visceral, internally explorative works that provoke many emotions. Film is just his way of doing that with sound and light rather than with paint. So to think of Twin Peaks as a TV show or a movie, I think might be incorrect and kind of limiting to the show and to our experience of it. This should be viewed as a very subjective, personal experience with no outside notions of what it is supposed to be. The Return seems to be David Lynch doing exactly what he wanted to do originally with the show, which was make a raw, unfiltered, undiluted artistic experience. And I think that that's what we really got with Twin Peaks: The Return, is some unedited, unhinged, unfiltered, whatever David Lynch, like just pure. He just like did some TM and just came up with this crazy stuff. And then he was like, I'm gonna make it. I think that's what it is. That's kind of how he talks about a lot of his work and how he doesn't like to interpret it or explain it for you. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Like I said before, if you happen to notice anything that you think I missed, put it in the comments and we can talk about it. And subscribe. I'm gonna try to keep making more videos like this. So tell me what you like, what you didn't like, and yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good day. I've become incapable of reading basic scripts that I wrote for myself.